for me to say the most beautiful words in the world. Hello and welcome to Austria Comic-Con. Wundervoll. Wer ist gut drauf? Did you hear anything? No. Ich frage noch einmal, wer ist gut drauf? Wer hat Lust auf Game of Thrones? So everybody, hold the door for Christian NAIRN. Hello. Please have a seat wherever you like.
Oh, sorry.
You take this chair.
Hi, guys.
Wonderful. So, first things first. Game of Thrones was actually your first real major acting experience. So the thing is, you were in the very first episode. But what were the things? Not? IMDb said you were from the beginning in Game of Thrones. Yes. What was the thought that provoked you to audition for the role, to pursue acting as a career?
Well, I was working as a DJ. I was always involved in music. That was really my first career. And I guess I was always very dramatic. I'm quite a dramatic person. So people always said to me, you should act. And I did study acting when I was in college. So I have a certain look. I mean, not many people look like I do. So there was always certain parts I would have been good for. So I had a guy who always said, you should audition to be an actor. When you get into a show, it's going to go well for you because you're pretty unique. So he put me forward for auditions occasionally. And one was for Hot Fuzz. Have you seen Hot Fuzz? Yeah, it's a Simon Pegg movie. I didn't get it. So 5 years later, I got a phone call from the casting director, and they couldn't think of anyone else for the part of Hodor, and that's how I got it. I never planned. It just all sort of happened. So from that day, my life completely changed.
Of course, the thing is, Game of Thrones actually was an established franchise when the series started on HBO. George R.R. Martin's books were already out. Some of them maybe will be out sometime. But did you know what you were getting yourself into? I mean, how big this thing is going to get?
No. I mean, what you just said there about not knowing what I got myself into, that could really be my whole life. But yeah, my mother actually had read the books. I didn't know this. She's a huge fantasy fan. She had read Lord of the Rings. She loves the David Gemmell books, like Legend and stuff like that. And she really loved Game of Thrones, which I did not know. I came back from this really weird audition where they only allowed me to say one word, obviously. And what word was that? Can you guess? Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, that one. And I had to find a child. And I don't have a child, and nor do I want one. But we had to find a random child for this audition. I can't remember why I'm telling you this now. But my mother had read the books, and I came back from this audition, and I said, Mum, I've just done this strange audition. And she asked me what was the character, and I said, Hodor. And she was just like, is that from Game of Thrones? And I was like, yeah.
How many more Hodors are there?
No, I didn't know that. She was just like, you have to take this part. You don't know Game of Thrones, but it's going to be big. And that was from my mother. So that's how it happened.
The thing with Hodor is he only speaks the one word, but behind the scenes, we all know that Hodor has a lot more going on back there than we give him credit for. So the thing is, did you have some method of, putting other thoughts and ideas into Hodor's one word, and how did you go about that?
Well, it was my first acting role, as you know, and I'm actually glad, because knowing what I know now, I think I would have done it differently, and I don't know if I would have done it as well, because he's not the type of character that you overthink. Because he doesn't overthink, and therefore the actor should not overthink. It was all about being present in the moment, because Hodor really doesn't plan what he's going to have for dinner. He doesn't plan that he's going to invest into this friggin' stock market. You know what I mean? He only thinks about what's happening. And that's what I had to sort of turn off the world. And just, like, if there was a sausage here, I really had... A sausage? Why did I go to sausage? A sausage. I think we know why I went to sausage. Just concentrate on the one thing, and I really had to turn the world out around me. And that's how I did it. That's how I did Hodor.
Mm-hmm. And we all know that the producers of Game of Thrones were very secretive.
Yeah.
So not much information was spread out. So how much did you actually get? But when you did the audition, you did know that it was for Game of Thrones. And how often did you flick to the last page of the scripts to see if Hodor's name is still there? And did you even get the full scripts? Because that was another issue that we've heard about the show.
In the first few years, we got the whole script. Mm-hmm. But because of, well, put it this way, in season 1, season 2, no one really cared. But from season 3 onwards, when we were filming, there'd be helicopters flying over the set. There'd be people with long-range cameras, and there'd be drones and everything trying to see what we were doing, and people were trying to get our scripts. So we only got the parts that we needed after that. But yeah, we always checked our name to see if we would survive. It was like a little game, and I just remember I hadn't read the script, and I got a call from Finn Jones, who played Loras Tyrell, Knight of Flowers, and he called me. And he was being a bit weird. He's weird anyway, but even weirder. And he just said, "Have you read the script?" And I just knew. I knew. Why are you calling me, Finn? So he told me how I died. And yeah, it was just one of those things we did. No one expected to last. No one expected to last every season.
What I always find most impressive about actors, because I'm the one who walks into the kitchen and then thinks, why am I here exactly? So how people can actually remember all of their lines and all of their dialogue. So how did you go about that?
There's a short and rude answer to that.
The real actual question is, you have a new show out on Amazon Prime at the moment. So it is an obvious question for all of the actors. What are your strategies?
I make a joke out of it, but it is actually. I was DJing at the same time when I did the first 3 seasons, and I'd be in a nightclub till 4 a.m. and then straight on to set. And I had no lines. I only had Hodor, and I was like, yes. Because I remember I got Our Flag Means Death. Do you have Our Flag Means Death here? Thank you. But I remember reading my lines going, oh, do I really have to say all this? You know? But Hodor was amazing for that. And yeah, I got a lot of credit for one word.
What I found most interesting when you look at the props for Game of Thrones, it's a very high budget, high class series, but sometimes they just, cheat a little by using IKEA blankets and stuff like that. So I would like to know, what was the most surprising prop that you had to work with? The most amazing build or surprising, insane contraption that they came up with?
There's a few, actually, but if I had to pick one, they had to keep, over the space of the series, they had to keep inventing things for me to carry Bran in, because he kept getting bigger and bigger. So first of all, I had him in a wheelbarrow, which we made, which was actually harder. Then they made me some sort of harness, and that was actually really good. That was season 2, season 3. That was really easy. But then his legs got longer and longer, and they were like trailing on the ground. He got so big. And then they made me like a Eskimo type papoose, and that was what we finished with. So they were pretty impressive, but none of them were easy. They were not designed to be easy. They were designed to look good. And what else would there have been? I was always very impressed. The dire wolves. We had a false dire wolf called Stuffy, and it was like this height. It was modelled on Ghost. But the funny thing was, he had his eyes were like this. His eyes were looking in different directions. And it was really hard to be serious. Like, you're like, yes, ghost. Why are you looking at me like that? But it was really weird. And also, after season 3, the direwolves were all CGI. So there would have to be like 2 producers inside a green sack, like running around in the background. And it was very funny to watch. But yeah, they were very inventive with their props.
Speaking of the props, how many of the special effect shots and scenes that you did were actually prop handmade effects, or how much CGI green screening was there involved for you?
There was a lot. It was mostly things like castles. Mm-hmm. You know, there would be times when there's one scene that stands out to me. It's when we were in the night fort. And I remember we were approaching, and I think it's Mira Reid says, "Oh, there's the night fort where we're nearly there." And it was actually like a PA standing with a tennis ball on a stick. So you have to be like, "Oh, thank God, it's a tennis ball." But yeah, it's hard sometimes. And as a new actor, it's a different skill. Yeah. So I had to learn how to act with people, tennis balls, stuffed animals, children, all in one series. So it was a challenge. It definitely was a challenge.
Let's switch to the most important microphone, please.
How did you like the ending of Game of Thrones?
I wish I put a bet on that was the first question. I wish I put a bet on. I liked it. I'm so sorry. But I mean, I hear every day, literally, what people think of it. But I understand where you're coming from. I understand. But my only comment is I wish it was longer. I just wish we had more. I think it was too fast at the end, the last 3 episodes. Apart from that, I don't mind what happened. I mean, anybody who thinks Daenerys wasn't going to burn King's Landing is insane. She always was going to do that. So I'm happy with what happened, but I just wish it was longer.
Let's just quickly hear from the audience. Who was happy with the ending of Game of Thrones? Give us a shout. Okay, just to see if you're actually awake, who was not happy with the ending of Game of Thrones? Give us a shout.
Well, I'm
all
not
right,
a writer.
they are awake.
I'm not a writer, so I don't care. But thank you for your opinion. It means exactly nothing. Oh, I'm joking.
But let's quickly switch to your new project. It's a show called Our Flag Means Death, and it's also set in the 18th century, another period piece with loads of costumes, load of effects. What can you tell us about the show?
that was really effect heavy.
Yeah.
We did 2 entire seasons and on a boat and never got wet. Never actually put one single toe, not a finger, in the water. It was such a wonderful show. I mean, no disrespect to Game of Thrones. I changed my life in 100,000 ways, and more ways than Our Flag Means Death, of course. But the cast in Our Flag Means Death, the people I worked with, it was just a dream. It was a dream job. And I'm saying was because it's been cancelled, of course. It's a good show, so therefore they're going to cancel it. We're still hoping maybe sometime in the future we'll get back together and do a series 3 or maybe a movie. But if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like Monty Python type humor. It's done by Taika Waititi. We're just a band of awful pirates. And when I say awful, I don't mean nasty. We're just shit. They were like just awful, just bad. And I really believe it's because I am a bad pirate and the actors are also bad pirates. We just did what we do and we're bad. So I recommend it. It's a very good show. It's fun. But yeah, we had I think it was the biggest green screen ever used. It was right entire. We had a full pirate ship. And it was on airbags. So why am I shouting? Airbags. And so the boat would be rocking. And when it stopped, we were all still going like this. So, yeah, that was a trip. And it was so disorientating. The technology was unreal. It was all set up with like compasses to match the stars and everything. I'm like, what is going on here? But it was really, really good.
despite the green screen and the CGI, digital special effects, there is still a lot of practical movement and fighting and battling involved. Did you ever get hurt while doing more dangerous scene on the set, or are you like, no, you're going to do this?
I mean, I hurt myself during Game of Thrones, which has been why I have a bad back and usual shit. But they worked around it for me on Our Flag Means Death. They were really kind, and they kept me not having to do some pretty awful stuff. But yeah, they really worked around what I could do. But I'm feeling better now, so that's good. No, it was really great. That was such a wonderful experience.
What were actually your first thoughts? Because when we go back to Game of Thrones, your character is called Hodor, and let's say he finds an ironic fate. So what was the first thought that you had when you read this? It was like, oh, come on, guys. Oh.
Well, I mean, he's a nice guy, and he's in Westeros, so I knew his time was numbered. And the more I got to like the character, and the more you guys got to like the character, I just knew. I knew you're setting something up here. They're just setting this up. But I was really pleased. The one thing I do tell people is, out of all the people who worked as King's guards in Game of Thrones, he was the only one that actually protected the king and successful. Like, Isaac actually survived. Sorry, Bran. He survived. Every other King's guard, the king was killed. So Hodor was the only King's guard that did his job correctly, even though he didn't know it. So there you go. That's my claim to fame.
Everybody, do you still have more questions?
Come on, guys.
We have time for a few more. Yes, please.
And don't be afraid to get freaky.
We don't bite.
Right, I wanted to ask about Our Flag Means Death, about how the audition went for that.
Yeah. It was during COVID, and I got the call. I read about the show. I was very excited because Taika was involved. He was really hot, still is really hot right now. I did the audition, but there was one thing that was different. They asked me to put myself in the position of the character, and we'd just been kidnapped by the Navy, the British Navy, and how would my character talk myself out of the prison? So I did what any self-respecting Irishman would do. I went to my friend who's a scriptwriter, and he wrote it for me, and then I did it as part of the audition. I told them afterwards, of course, but yeah, that's it. They asked us to do a part in our character, and that was really good. It sort of gives you something to go on as well, so it was really helpful. They've gone, but hi.
I have a question about your death scene in Game of Thrones. How different was it for you to first act the scene and play it, and then see it on the television or the screen?
How different was it to do the scene in real life and real time towards seeing it on the screen?
Oh, yeah.
And do you even watch the show when you're seeing? Because a lot of people don't.
Yeah, that took me a while. I did not watch the first season. I did not want to see the nude scene. That's not something I wanted to watch. But after season 2, I got my head around it. It is weird watching yourself because you don't see yourself acting. You just see yourself as yourself. And I'm remembering that I was probably hungry at that time, and I'm like, when's lunch? You know, but that's all you see. You see yourself and what your thought process is, but you get over that, and then you can use it. It's a really valuable tool to sort of see how you can improve, but it's difficult because obviously you're your own worst critic. That's always a thing. But I've learned how to watch myself, and it does. You can never imagine, like the whole scene of me dying against the door. I couldn't imagine how that was going to look, because we filmed that in like 4 different locations. There were like 7 different doors, inside, outside, close up, far away, different door, different zombies. You know, it's insane, but it all comes together in one tiny scene, and that still impresses me even after all these years.
You play a lot of games, you're a big World of Warcraft geek, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow, but there is a funny little game that's especially good when you talk about Game of Thrones, and that's called Fuck, Marry, Kill.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of that game?
Yes.
The audience condemned you.
You have. Thank you so much.
This is the final question. You all
game.
doomed yourself and Christian.
Come on then. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's fuck, marry, kill then.
There you go.
Well, hey, okay. Fuck, marry, kill.
You need to select. I'm not giving you a choice. You have the whole cast of characters.
Kill is easy. There's so many. Right, kill. Right. See if you agree with me here. It's either one of three. It's either going to be obviously Joffrey. You're really bad at this. Ramsay Bolton. And 3, I would say, is Walder Frey. Yes. 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 I'm going to say Walder Frey because he caused the Red Wedding, and that was just brutal. So he gets to die, which he does get to die, as there's no spoilers, of course. But, oh God. Mary. I'm leaving the best one to the end. Mary. I think I would probably marry Brienne of Tarth because we would. I'm not sure it would be a very successful union, but we would have like Godzilla babies. That's what I would want. They're like Planet Monsterverse babies. And we'd take over the world, and that's fine by me. And fuck. Oh God. You want a real answer or a comedy one? Let's do comedy. No. Fuck off. Fantasy fuck. Okay, I have another question here for you. As Hodor or as me? Yeah, that's even easier. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to say the mountain because it might cause an earthquake. And he probably wouldn't want to either. When did that ever stop me? That's Hodor, by the way. We're talking as Hodor. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to give a double answer here, even though I've entertained you amazingly around this answer. It's going to be Brienne of Tarth. I think Hodor would love Brienne of Tarth. I think those two would make an amazing couple. I don't think Brienne would agree, but I'm going to say double Brienne. I also love Gwen, who plays. She's one of the most amazing people. If you ever get to meet her, she's incredible.
So, sorry. Once again, you're very much welcome. And I hope you enjoyed your time. This was Christian NAIRN.